friend of mine, she lives in Madison, and she just so upset. All right, welcome to the Oconee County Board of Commissioners meeting. If you're joining us virtually, when it's an opportunity to comment during the public comment sections, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. After a moment of silence, we're going to ask Justin to lead us in the pledge. If you would, please stand. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item of business will be to approve the agenda, and I'd ask that we add to the discussion of the proposed Purdue bankruptcy plan as item 6.6 for tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the additional item is at 6.6.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. There's opportunity for any comments from citizens. This is for anything that is not on our agenda for tonight. Very good. Any statements or remarks from commissioners?
That's me.
Just a couple announcements. The government offices will be closed on Monday, July 5th in observance of Independence Day. Also, our public hearing for the millage rate are as follows. July 6th will be at 6 p.m. here at the courthouse. July 27th, also at 6 p.m. here at the courthouse. August 3rd at 5:30 here at the courthouse in our chambers. And then the 2021 millage rate will be adopted on August 3rd at the regular meeting. Some additional news is that the judicial order will expire tomorrow night at midnight. So this will be the last time you'll have to wear your mask in the building. Do be smart though. If you're sick or have a fever, do not enter our premises, please. All citizen advisory meetings will go to in person for appointed members. This is mostly affects the planning commission. And we'll continue to offer virtual attendance for citizens for the next several months to see how that goes. All right, with that, we'll move to our next item, which is discussion of the FY 21 merit adjustment. Well, it's been a long time goal of mine and the commission to reward our top performers in each year. We've been through several iterations of different kind of instruments to do ratings. I've had some additional trainings. And thanks to Justin, he got us across the line with an instrument that carries some weight and that we have a lot of confidence in that we're getting accurate performance reviews. So thank you, Justin, for getting us there. So we got a good rating system, and now we're trying to figure out how to reward those top performers. So throughout this last year, we've had several positions that were not filled. In the governing authority, also throughout the sheriff's office, just with change, people leaving and coming, having open positions. So what we'd like to do is declare a $40,000 merit one-time funding declaration. And so the next challenge is how do we divide that up amongst the different areas? So what we did is we took the employee count for this upcoming fiscal year. And statistically, 10 to 20% of your employees will be the top performers. And we allocated 20% out for each constitutional office and then the governing authority. So that would give 19 to the sheriff's office, 2 to the clerk of court, 1 for probate, 1 for tax commissioner, and then 28. And that's just based on the 20% of the total number of employees. And based on those percentages out of that, that's how much each employee would get. So we have 51 total, which represents 20%. And so 40,000 divided by 51 is $784 per employee. Now, this does not limit anybody's ability to reward Excel to. So if probate court wanted to say, so I'm picking on him since he's in the room. If he wanted to say everybody was excelling this year, then they would just have to divide up that $784 amongst all those people in his office. So any questions so far about how we got to that point? We have gone over this with a constitutional office in the meeting. I think everybody understands it and sees where we're trying to get to.
So I have one question.
Yes.
So help me understand when you, make sure I understand your definition of merit. That's above any other type of,
Yes.
increase due to responsibilities.
Yes.
So that's what you consider as merit.
Yes. It's totally based on performance for the current year that we're in. So evaluations are done generally in January. And so if you do well on your evaluate, if you get meets expectations, that makes you eligible for your 2% increase if it's declared. There are also people who get what they think it's needs improvements, meets expectations, or excels. And so we had 14% of our workforce hit that excels mark. And so we're trying to reward those that had a great year getting things done.
So this is on top of what they
Yes.
normally would have got.
Yes. And this is a one-time. So next year, there may or may not be money available to do it. And all these numbers could change as well. So
All right. So it is a one time. So it's not added to their base.
that's right.
Okay.
So this would come out of the FY 21 general fund. Taxes and benefits would be on top of the 40,000. We need authorization to do budget amendments and transfers as part of that. And the payout on this would be July 9th, which would be after our vote on July 6th. Boards in concurrency moving forward with it.
Thank
you. Anything to add on?
No, I appreciate the commissioners taking a look at this. We're always trying to find a way to, we have an outstanding workforce, but you always want to try to find a way to those who go above and beyond over the course of the fiscal year. And so I appreciate the constitutional officers working with us on this. And typically in performance, you think that 10 to 20% on the far end of the bell curve are where you should be. So
this is a way to do it equitably for those who demonstrated credibility.
Any other questions or concerns on this one? You all right for consent agenda? Right here. Good. Very good. Any public comment on this item? Anyone virtually? Thank you. Next item is discuss an agreement for the court collection services between I3 Verticals and Oconee County Probate Court. Judge Hunzinger.
Good evening. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here. The court has not done collections for unpaid fines since 2006. And as a result, we have approximately 328 already on file, and we average about 20 unpaid tickets per month to add over time. Our current vendor for our records management system, as well as our online court payment solution, I3 Verticals, also has started offering a collection service through their records management service. So what they can do is they can take the information of the unpaid tickets on the back end of the system and generate the statutorily required letters to the violators. And then along with that statutorily required letter to the violator, there's correspondence that needs to be done with Department of Driver Services. It takes a period of about 60 to 90 days in order for us to have a full process in order to try to collect an unpaid ticket. And with this memorandum of agreement, we would enter into an agreement with I3 Verticals to handle that collections process through an automated form using our record management system. There's no additional IT needs on behalf of the probate court, and the system essentially pays for itself because through the collections from the violator, when they do pay the tickets, if they pay the tickets, a percentage of that fee goes to the collections aspect. Unpaid state, in-state violators, we would collect 70% of that ticket. Out-of-state violators, we would collect 60%, and that's better than not collecting anything. If we don't pay the ticket and we don't collect the money, then those violators end up going to Department of Driver Services and their licenses get suspended. And that's the only other way to deal with that. So essentially, this court is issuing a bench warrant for them, that we will not necessarily be able to collect on, because more than likely, if we have unpaid violators there from out of county or out of state. So I appreciate y'all's consideration in approving this matter, helping us reduce our unpaid fines collections.
Any questions for Judge?
I've got two, just to, I'm more out of curiosity. Judge Huntington, when you say that, how quick, if I got a speeding ticket and will your office handle the collection of that for a period of time before it's turned over to this?
Currently, we do. Currently, we have to issue by statute. If you don't pay your ticket by your court date, a letter has to be written, notified in writing, which gives you 30 days to pay the citation. If you don't pay the citation within that 30 days, then we have to notify the Department of Driver Services at the state level, and they give you another written notification with an additional 30 days to pay. And then we request through that notification to have your driver's license suspended for failure to appear. So right now, we're handling a good part of that manually with our staff by utilizing this service. Because our records management system already has that information available to it, they will generate these letters automatically and keep that calendar with the Department of Driver Service for us, without us having to keep up with it.
So we'll turn the collection of the ticket to them. Immediately.
Correct.
So it's not once they've had an opportunity to pay your office for 30 days.
Their service begins with that initial 30-day letter upon, they have it in their system that what day the ticket's supposed to be paid. If we don't enter it that it's paid by that day, then they start the process.
Okay.
For us.
And also one other question, just out of curiosity, is those 328 tickets, what does that amount to in dollars?
I couldn't give you because not each citation is for the same amount of dollars, but some of those fines. I know you never had to pay one, but some of those fines can be a large amount of money. So I'm thinking thousands of dollars, several thousands of dollars potentially. And along with this agreement, not only will this company start with new unpaid citations, they have agreed to go back and address our backlog.
So how much is the backlog total? Do you know?
I don't know the
Okay.
total of those fines, but it's several thousands of dollars.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Be all right for consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you.
Any public comments? Anyone virtually? Thank you. Our next item is discuss the FY 22 Family Connection Contract. Wes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I come for you tonight to ask for permission for the chairman to sign the renewal of the contract. Last year, it was $50,000, and the state's estimated grant for it is $48,000 this year. So request is to keep it at the $50,000 for this valuable program for Oconee County. That would take us through next fiscal year, the renewal of that contract. If there's any questions that I can answer specifically about that, then I'll be glad to do so.
Any questions on this? Very good. Be all right for consent?
Yes.
Any public comment? Anyone virtual? Thank you. Next item is the FY 22 Public Defender Indigent Defense Services Agreement. Wes, you've got that one as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a contract for the indigent defense. Mr. John Donnelly is the lead public defender for the Western Judicial Circuit. And again, a year-long contract, $193,979 for the FY 22 budget. Runs for that 12-month period. It will begin on July 1st, and it has already been ratified by the counterparts at Athens, Clark County. If there's any questions, I can answer those.
I've got one, Mr. Chairman, just for my information. Do we provide them with office space or anything?
Not the public defender. We provide them with administrative support and this contribution to the office.
So is that part of this figure, the contribution for the minister? That's part of this?
Yes, sir. The administrative support is not, but we do the same for the DA's office as well. The DA's office, we do provide space for.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Be all right for consent? Any public comment? Anyone virtually? Thank you. Next item is discuss the Department of Transportation Local Administered Project Certification and Title VI Non-Discrimination Agreement. Jody?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This item of business is the Georgia Department of Transportation Title VI Non-Discrimination Agreement. And as part of the local administered project certification, we're required to adopt this, and basically it says that we comply with all federal non-discrimination requirements. And it allowed the local administered project certification allows us to manage certain aspects of federal aid projects that Georgia DOT has in the county. And we're currently doing the design, and we'll do the right-of-way acquisition on the 2 roundabouts on State Route 53. And this item of business was approved by the board last year, and part of the certification is we adopt it annually. So this is just a renewal of that Title VI agreement that we would comply with all federal non-discrimination.
Any questions for Jody on this one? You all right for consent? Yes. Any public comment? Anyone virtually? Thank you. Yeah, our next item is discuss and consider a right-of-way deed for James Hunter. Daniel?
Well, you run into strange things in doing real estate, and this is one of them. At some point, decades ago at this point, an era crept in my opinion, an era crept into the surveys on the property that's at the corner of Hodges Mill and Malcolm Bridge Road. It's now owned by the Hunter family. And the era is that the surveys started showing a portion of the house right at that corner as being within the right of way. Well, the house predates the right of way, and in searching back through all the old deeds and right of way deeds and plats, David Linder at Fort Bentley and I, the surveyor, all kind of concluded that that is almost certainly an error, that no one ever intended to take the corner of the house. And, that would have been a total take anyway if you were taking the house. So the way that we have decided we'll fix this, and the title company for the purchaser is willing to insure the title if we do this, is to approve the chairman signing the survey showing the correct location of the right-of-way line. And this will show the right-of-way as excluding the corner of the house and where their drives and sidewalks run parallel to Malcolm Bridge. Strange circumstance. It doesn't hurt anything that I can see from the county standpoint, and I think it's the actual result that's correct in all this.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, what about our normal setback lines? How will that be addressed?
It'd be grandfathered. I mean, the house predates
Okay.
zoning by, 100 years? So, yeah, it was there well before we started imposing rules on it.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a strange circumstance. You could, fortunately, in the old plats and everything, you could see the house. You can see the house on an old GDOT map. So it's relatively clear that at some point, we won't name any surveyors' names, but a surveyor that's no longer with us made a mistake, and it's just been perpetuated in the record. So this will fix that.
Isn't this right away really prescriptive in this case?
No, there actually is a right-of-way deed. That's the only reason we actually have a plat that shows the house and the right-of-way, is there's a GDOT plat that was attached to one of those right-of-way deeds. You've probably seen them before, where 15 people signed the right-of-way deed. So before that, I'm sure it was prescriptive.
Yeah, but that was when the paving of that road occurred.
Yeah.
And then, but a lot of times the right of way moves in and out, even with those GDOTs, and so it's probably an oversight at that point.
Yeah, and there was clearly a little cutout shown by all the surveyors. I think they just didn't show it exactly at the right place. So, mistakes happen. People are human. Surveyors, even surveyors. So this will fix it, and it'll allow the Hunters to sell this property to the new owner, and everybody will be happy.
Any other questions? Any public comment on this item? Anyone virtually? All right, with that, we'll entertain a motion to approve the right-of-way deed.
I'll make a motion to approve the right-of-way deed for James Hunter.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Our next item is discuss the FY 22 Association of County Commissioners of Georgia, IRMA property and liability insurance renewal. Ms. Holland?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The property and liability insurance policy with ACCG is due for renewal, comes up July 1st each year. ACCG has presented their property and liability insurance renewal packet for FY 22. The coverage will remain the same with a $10,000 deductible. Premium of $241,838 is after a $14,523 safety credit and a $34,101 dividend credit applied. We recommend approval for the FY 22 ACCG IRMA property and liability insurance renewal.
Any questions for Holly on that? That's just our annual renewal. Start the consent agenda.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Very good. Any public comment? Anyone virtually? Thank you. Next item is discuss the alcohol application for the Cracker Barrel.
Yes, the Cracker Barrel Corporation.
Could you pull your mic up a little bit closer?
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
The Cracker Barrel Corporation has made the application for a new alcohol license for the sale of beer and wine. The registered agent, Mr. James Barber, has completed the RAS training. The Cracker Barrel is located at 1913 Epps Bridge Parkway, and their application is complete. We ask for approval of the alcohol license for the Cracker Barrel for beer and wine.
Any questions on this item? Gravy and biscuit and a glass of wine.
So with your eggs and bacon and a beer. Okay.
That's what steaks do.
There you go. Very good. Any public comment on this item? Anyone virtually? Thank you. Be all right for consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Next item is discussion of speed studies on various county roads. Jody?
Mr. Chairman, Commission, this item of business is just discussion of our current speed zone ordinance and kind of background on how we came about the ordinance and what it means. Now, periodically, we do get requests, the board gets requests, the sheriff gets requests to lower speed limits on certain roads. And as part of that, we have looked at them, and the board has adopted a speed zone ordinance that allows the sheriff to enforce the speed limit, the posted speed limit on the roads. And looking at the roads and how we generate the recommended speed, we have some radar signs that we post around the county, and we're able to obtain some speed data from that and some traffic volumes. And through that, Georgia DOT looks at the 85th percentile speed, the accident history, the geometry of the road. And Georgia DOT actually uses a program through Federal Highway Administration that you input all the data and it comes up with recommended speed. And so that's what we have done is followed that engineering study. And so in saying that, the speed zone ordinance that we have is approved by Georgia DOT in a 3-year cycle. So our ordinance actually expires December of 2022. And so what we would recommend doing is that as these requests come in, we do the engineering study and submit any request to modify it with the next renewal, which would be next year for the, prior to December 2022. And that would come before the board, and the board, if they adopt it, if you adopt it, then we would forward that to Georgia DOT. And then once it's approved by Georgia DOT, any changes in the ordinance, we would change the signage on the roads as well. And some of the roads that have been requested were Choice Johnson, La Vista, New High Shoals, Oliver Bridge Road, Union Church, and Whippoorwill. And as I said, we can, we'll do this engineering study on those and present the recommendation to the board as part of that renewal.
So based on your studies so far, did it show any of them that could be reduced?
The ones we've looked at so far, what they're posted at is the recommended speed through the Federal Highway program that we've used.
Okay, so we still could choose to lower the speed limit. However, that would limit the sheriff's ability to run radar. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And we can't make any change until the renewal.
That's correct.
Okay. So if we make any changes now that aren't supported by engineering, that would void the permit for all the county roads, which we don't necessarily want to do at this point.
All these roads you got listed on here, are they pretty similar as far as what the current speed limit is?
Most of them are.
They look very similar in road.
They are. La Vista is posted at 30 right now. Choice Johnson is 55. Union Church, Whippoorwill at 50. Oliver Bridge is 55. I have to go back and look at New High Shoals. We have to do the study on that one. We haven't done the speed study on it to see.
So
I just don't remember it.
So we're looking at La Vista going from 30 to lower than that.
I wouldn't recommend going lower than 30 on that one.
That's why 30 is kind of low.
Right. in a residential neighborhood, which in a residential subdivision, those roads typically don't go on the permit. But La Vista is technically classified as local through our road classification. But with all the neighborhoods that have come off of it, it serves more as a collector. So I wouldn't recommend going any lower than 30 on it. In a neighborhood, a subdivision, they're designed at 30 miles an hour, and we would lower them to 25 if the neighborhood requested it, but that's as low as we could go inside a subdivision.
To expound on what Jody's saying, so these are all roads that represent complaints from citizens. So as we receive the complaints, we're going to continue. And that's the beauty of the mobile radar signs that we have as opposed to the fixed ones, is they gather the data. So we're kind of building our book of data over the process. So the recommendation that we would have as far as the go forward path is, so I checked to see if there's a possibility of amending this earlier, and I got a pretty stern no.
From who?
From GDOT. As far as our ability to do that, can we remove them? No. Can we amend it earlier? No. On first request, I would say. So we're going to build the book as far as the data, and then as we're ready to adjust it again, it becomes a policy choice in a collaboration with the sheriff's office as to whether these remain on the radar. We request a lowering of the speeds on certain roads, understanding that they may or may not be allowed to remain on the radar permit. That becomes the policy choice at that point, whether they support that or not. But anyway, that's sort of the go forward that we've been given right now.
I think one of the questions I would have, let's use Union Church Road. That's a kind of a current example that we've had some concerns from the neighbors over there. And I understand the fact that if it's not enforceable, with radar, I understand that. But I guess my question I would love to have an answer is, when was the last time that radar was run on Union Church Road? Or when was the last time a speeding ticket was given? So, I mean, if they haven't been running radar, I mean, so what, it's kind of like, if they haven't been doing it, then what's the need for it to be under the ordinance? I'm just making a comment. You don't need to respond, but I think part of this, because we are talking about voting to have a discussion. So is that discussion now, or is that at a later time?
Well, I think we can discuss what direction. Okay. So I will respond to your question about what, I don't know when the last time they ran radar, but your point is correct. If we're not running radar, what's the, and I would say none, or it's a guide at that point. That's, that was my request that Jody went forward with GDOT. All right, so assuming that's the situation, may we remove this road from the permit now, understanding whatever the situation may be. And that was where we got the stern no. So
you can't even take it off. And
that was
Right. That's what we're being told now. And we're going to continue to pursue it, but if we lower speed on a road that's on the permit, then that puts the entire permit, not just for that road, but for the entire county at jeopardy. And that's what we're trying to avoid. And then we've had discussions with the sheriff, and he's fully on, he understands what we're trying to accomplish. And
yeah,
and there's some data that show, he's got some additional rules. We have all these rules to follow to set the speed limit, but he has additional enforcement rules. And really, when you look at some of his data, a lot of the cars aren't meeting the threshold that he could even issue a citation if he had a deputy sitting there all day long. So, I mean, he's on board with sitting down with us, and if we want to lower it, it's not going to impact his operation substantially.
Yeah.
And if he finds a road that is, then we'll have that discussion and look at leaving it on.
I mean, I think that I can understand why GDOT would be that way, because then they'd have to spend all their time
Yeah.
dealing with 159 counties, changing their permit every other month. My last question, and I've spoken to you, Justin, about this, or Jody, is how as far as the school zone, particularly there at Union Church, I was given the impression there was some guidelines for how the distance for a school zone. Have that been looked at Union Church Road there right before you come up behind Oconee High School?
Coming from North High Shoals.
Or coming from
Towards-
Bishop, yeah.
Yeah, coming up towards 53. The distance, we haven't reviewed it since I've been here. Those were, the zones are identified when you, like if you add a road or if a school, like say, when Dove Creek was built, that was one that didn't have a school zone. And then when the school came in, the school zone was identified. And that was something that was done with coordination with Georgia DOT. As far as the distance from, I don't think they have a set, it's got to be X number of feet from the school property. They try to look at the surrounding area. If it's a higher congested area or more rural area, then I think there's some flexibility in that distance.
Right. So 2 points about that. If it is a school zone, is it part of the permit or is it separate? How does the
The
sheriff?
school zone speed limit is identified in the speed zone ordinance, and that would be adopted by the board.
So the school zone speed limit that's out there now is enforceable
Yes, sir.
with radar.
Yes, sir.
All right. The point I'm trying to make, and I wish, Mr. Chairman, they could add that to their list and look at that, because when I was out there, it seemed like the beginning of the school zone was just between here and the hallway of the back entrance to the Oconee student parking lot. And I know that in most cases, there is the school zone's a little bit further away, the beginning of the school zone before you get to the school.
So you're looking at extending the school zone limits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Out Union Church Road. Because if we're not going to be able to lower the speed limit from 50 where it is now to a lesser speed, is there a way to, skin that cat a different way and extend the school zone, which is 35, I assume.
Can't
I don't, well, whatever it is, it's less than 50.
Yes.
It's less than 50. And the other question I had is, how long can a school zone be enforced?
That, I can't answer that one. For arrival time, it goes into effect 45 minutes prior to arrival, and dismissal, it begins 15 minutes before the dismissal time. 45 minutes after.
Okay. Well, I've been through communities where they flash the school zone light all day long. So not to say that we do that, but that's just one way to maybe look at it, to address some of the concern, because I think we'll have a hard time explaining to our citizens that we've got to, all these hoops we got to jump through to make it enforceable, and then have to turn around and wait till December of 22 to even submit. I mean,
That's when our renewal is.
That's when the renewal is. We would start working on it about this time next year.
yeah.
Get everything.
Okay, well, I just mentioned that because of the school zone. I don't think any of the other roads have a school zone associated with it unless it's Whippoorwill, when you get up close to Union Church.
Does have a beacon at the intersection of Church, but it's right at the intersection.
Yeah,
Also say stop sign.
so it's just, if there's a way we can extend the school zone, that may be one way we can kind of come around to address the concerns about the speeding out there. Because 50 is, because we have a tendency to go 10 miles over the speed limit. Not everybody. Some of us. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? Very good, thanks. Thank you, Jody. You would give us an update on the all system safety grant that we received?
Sure. This item is Georgia DOT has some off-system safety money, which they fund improvements on roadways that are not state routes, so they off-system roads. And they came to us, look at it, and let us know they had some money available for some improvements. We submitted Simonson Bridge Road and Rocky Branch Road for shoulder wide. That would be, it's a project very similar to what we did over on Hot Mountain, where we put shoulder wide. Those were approved. Everything's in line for those projects to be bid and let this month, probably. But they were to be bid in this month, and with construction starting around September or October of this year. Georgia DOT will do the construction on that. So we had to measure the signs, the mailboxes, and agree to move those if needed. Look at it. That's on track for construction. What we would like to do. What it would do is the construction would start September, October. We do the 2-foot shoulder widening, and then what we would like to do, if the board approves funding, is possibly look at resurfacing like we did on Hog Mountain as well, and do that probably next year after that construction is done.
So there's really no action on that right now. That's kind of going through GDOT. Will we have some commitment to that project as well, right? Financially, or is that all?
That one is all Georgia DOT.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It wasn't as many. I wrote down it the other day. It wasn't as many as I thought. I was thinking they were a lot closer. So
Right.
I was surprised to see. Lord of mercy, we're gonna be buying a lot of posts. Any questions on that project? Very good. Thank you, sir. Next item is discuss a T-Splosh referendum. So we've been talking about this on and off for a couple years. We have pulled some data. And we'll kind of go over that tonight, talk about the schedule. Basically, our best case scenario would be collect $56 million from the T-Splosh. That covers, everything is taxed just like on the special purpose local option sales tax, except for gasoline. So these numbers are a little bit lower than what you would see on the regular Splosh number. Typically, we would budget roughly 79 to 80% of that as being truly expecting to collect it, or the safe number, which would be a total of 44 million. Then we have a breakdown. Bishop gets 0.68%, Bogart 2.72, North High Shoals 1.98, Watkinsville would get 8.63 of that. And that's all based on population. These are same numbers that we used in the Splosh vote that we did earlier this year. So that would leave roughly $48,154,400 for Oconee County. We've got categories broken down into three on how that would be spent. We have related services, and we're still trying to figure out what exactly that number is going to be. This would be allowable expenses from the general fund, and the goal would be to fund those items with the T-Splosh and offer some kind of property tax relief on the backside to offset that. Multi-use pass, we would have 3.7 million total for the referendum. Most likely we'll collect around 3 million. Once the Splosh is approved, we'd like to create a task force, or recommend creating a task force to review the path plan to kind of look at, what what staff's recommending and get the community input on prioritizing those pathways. We would have roughly $5 million for safety and intersection improvements, similar to some of the projects we've done with, being able to participate with GDOT on roundabouts, stoplights, extending the travel lanes like what we did on Hog Mountain Road, would be the kind of items that would be there. And of course, the big portion would go to paving, and that would be $26,279,400 if everything's collected. On 80%, that'd be just a little over 20 million. Right now, we do a manual road rating. We have somebody rides around and kind of looks at roads and rates them. If you look, our 71 mile, we got 71 miles of the lowest rating would cost about 18 to 21.5 million dollars to get those lowest rated roads taken care of. And to get on a real cycle where we're paving every, I think it's 20 years, we're anticipate we need to be doing about 20 miles of road to do that. So that's about 5 million is what we want to get to on an annual basis. And we've been doing about half of that between SPLOST and general fund, which we've increased the general fund contribution to paving each year, or to public works for paving and road improvements each year for the last 3 or 4 years. Right now, we're having Justin's working with a firm that's going to come in and do a technical rating. So they're going to bring in a truck with radar or some kind of stuff, and they're going to get a true measure of the base and the asphalt condition. They're going to rate that out. We're going to try to come up with a process for different types of road to try to get more miles per dollar than we're getting now. So some roads may need more extensive paving or different kind of base. So they're going to do an extensive study on that. So if we move forward the T-SPLOST, by the time we start collecting on it, we'll have that study in and can pretty much publish. Here's kind of the order we're going to try to go into a true paving plan for the next 15, 20 years, as long as funding can hold up with that. We do have a meeting scheduled with the mayors on July 1st, and we're going to verbally, everybody seems to be interested in participating in this with us. We'll get final confirmation at that meeting on July 1st. So really, we're just trying to get consensus about keep moving forward. We'd have to call for the election on August the 3rd in order to have the election on November the 2nd. And then collections would start in April of 2022. So the next April would be when we start actual collection. Be happy to answer any questions.
At least like others, they have a 5-year.
This will be a 5-year. I miss anything, Daniel? We good?
I think you got it.
So any objections to moving to the next phase with the mayor's meeting and coming back August 3rd with a resolution to be considered?
One more question.
Yes.
The cities, I mean, their portion, they decide how they want to spend it.
Yes.
Does it have to be kind of in the same categories?
It does. So it has to be related to transportation, and 30% of it has to be committed to projects that are in the statewide improvement plan that the state produces. Did I say that right, Daniel?
Yeah, although I might clarify, because I think I heard Amory ask a little different question.
Okay.
As long as they're doing transportation purposes, they're not bound by how we decide we want to use our money in any way. It's just everybody's bound by that same state law.
But the referendum has a list of projects.
No.
It doesn't?
It does not.
Okay, so it's not like the
It's
other.
a very generic kind of ballot question. It just basically says, do you want to vote for $56 million in T-SPLOST?
Okay.
So these general categories we have here will be generally what we're publishing out. I've seen the cities will do something similar when they do it.
So I guess one question is, if we're not maintaining our roads at the rate that we're supposed to, The only other option would be to raise taxes on our general fund so that we can support it that way.
Right. So even if you're 71 miles, I mean, that's a long time. I think right now we're general fund support's probably 700,000 or 800,000 for paving going in this next fiscal year. Most of it's coming from SPOS. And we still have that other SPOS money, so we could really make a huge dent with this 20 million from there. And if we can keep doing our 1.5 million from SPOS, really make some good headway.
How does that impact our funding when we do projects? I mean, the state, I mean, they like to see us, pony up local money for projects. Will this go toward like contributions toward projects that we partner with them?
Very well could, especially on your safety and intersection improvements.
So we can use that for
Yes.
our
Yeah,
portion.
when you sit down and say, I'm willing to bring this to the table, we jump ahead of a lot of folks on some
Okay.
projects with that. Any objections to continuing on to the next step? Okay. All right, we do have need of an executive session. We'll need,
Six.
Huh?
We got the last thing we had.
6A.
oh, okay. Wasn't on my list. Dan, you want to take care of that?
Yeah, as most of you know, we are participating in the multi-state or multi-district litigation on opioids that involves Purdue Pharma. And as you all know from the news, Purdue Pharma filed bankruptcy a while back. On June 3rd, the bankruptcy court entered an order that authorized Purdue to solicit votes for creditors for its fifth amended plan of reorganization. Purdue right now is saying they'll contribute something like $9.5 billion to that fund. There are a lot of people with, oars in the water here. But what we're being asked to do is to either vote for or against the plan. The recommendation from Drew Hill at Blasingame Birch, who's been leading this for us, is that we participate in the plan for the same reason that we're involved the way we are, which is we're such a small player in all this. We pretty much have to pick the best horse to ride. And this is the recommendation. This is not the only part of the litigation. This is not the only defendant, but it's one of the defendants out there. And this keeps us in the game to get money from that bankruptcy reorganization. One thing that's going on in all this is the state attorney generals have also intervened. And in some states, there have been agreements struck between local governments and the state. Georgia is still in discussions. There's a team of lawyers that are involved in all this that are talking about it. Of course, advocating for the cities and the counties to get as much as they possibly can, and the state to let us have it. And the state takes a little bit different view on that. But, the impact to us is not nearly what it is some other places. The numbers are not going to be that huge for us, but it's, if we can get it, it's found money. So what I need the board to do, and John and I talked about this being on the consent agenda, and I've checked, and that will meet their timeframes, is just approval for John to tell me to vote for the reorganization plan that Purdue Pharma has filed. And it's my recommendation too. There's 900 pages of attachments to this order. I did not read all of them, but Drew says he has, and it's the right thing to do.
Any questions of Daniel on this? We are for consent agenda approval. Yes. Very good. Any public comment? Anyone virtually? Thank you very much. Very good. We do need an executive session to discuss personnel, land acquisition, and litigation.
I make a motion that we adjourn to executive session to discuss land acquisition, personnel, and potential litigation.
A motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Got a motion to go back in regular session.
So moved.
Aye.
Adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.